Israel's military has already begun plans to retaliate against a Palestinian attempt to involve the International Court of Justice in the decades-long war. So, what's next in the Israel-Palestine conflict? Following a Palestinian request, the UN General Assembly asked the Hague-based World Court to give a ruling on the legal implications of Israel's 55-year occupation of Palestinian territories. In the 1967 Middle East War, Israel gained the Western Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem, to which the Palestinians demanded a separate state. It left Gaza in 2005, but controls the enclave's borders with neighboring Egypt. Under interim peace treaties signed in the 1990s, Palestinian Authority had limited self-rule in the West Bank. According to Netanyahu's administration, Israel, which collects tax money on behalf of the PA, will utilize $39 million from PA funds to recompense victims of Palestinian militant attacks and balance the stipends the PA gives to Palestinians who carried out attacks and their families. It added that the prohibition on Palestinian building would apply to Area C of the West Bank, which is under Israeli authority. The Israeli government has stated that it will retaliate against a Palestinian attempt to involve the International Court of Justice in the decades-old conflict. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's right-wing security cabinet approved measures such as utilizing Palestinian money to compensate victims of Palestinian militant assaults and placing a moratorium on Palestinian construction in some areas of the Israeli-occupied West Bank. According to Netanyahu's administration, this is in response to the Palestinian Authority's determination to pursue a political and legal war against the State of Israel. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Prime Minister has accused Israel's new ultra-nationalist government of attempting to destabilize the internationally recognized Palestinian Authority. He has warned that a slew of new Israeli sanctions could exacerbate a particularly bloody period of fighting. In recent days, Israel has withheld millions of dollars in Palestinian tax income, revoked VIP status from Palestinian leaders, and disrupted a gathering of Palestinian parents discussing their children's education. Israel's security minister has also banned public displays of the Palestinian flag. According to Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh, the Israeli actions are aimed at toppling the authority and pushing it to the brink financially and institutionally. We regard these measures as a new war against the Palestinian people, their capabilities and funds, as well as a war against the national authority, its survival and achievements, Shtayyeh declared at his weekly cabinet meeting. The Israeli actions are in response to the United Nations General Assembly's decision to request that the world body's top court rule on the legality of Israeli policies in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem. Israel strongly opposed the Palestinian-backed move. The International Court of Justice's decisions are not legally binding, but they can have a significant impact. Shtayyeh dismissed Israeli assertions that such initiatives are anti-peace. "We have the right to complain and tell the world we are in pain," he said, in comments published in the Haaretz. Israel wants to prevent even the most non-violent way of fighting the occupation. The Israeli National Security Minister had ordered the police to prohibit the display of the Palestinian flag in public the day before. "Today I directed the Israeli police to enforce the prohibition of flying any PLO flag that shows identification with a terrorist organization from the public sphere, and to stop any incitement against the State of Israel," Itamar Ben-Gvir announced on Twitter. Ben-Gvir, a far-right firebrand known for his anti-Palestinian comments, earned massive worldwide censure last week when he visited Jerusalem's most sacred site. Flying the Palestinian flag is not a crime in Israel. However, Israel's Attorney General has declared that police have the power to seize a flag if it violates public order or is used in support of terrorism. According to Adalah, an Arab minority legal rights organization, Ben-Gvir's ruling incorrectly suggests that any public display of the Palestinian flag breaks the peace. This gives the police unfettered discretion to ban the waving of the Palestinian flag under all circumstances, the group said. The Israeli crackdown comes at a crucial stage. Since a wave of Palestinian attacks on Israelis killed 19 last spring, the Israeli military has conducted near-daily raids into Palestinian communities and towns. According to the Israeli rights group B'Tselem, about 150 Palestinians were murdered by Israeli fire in the West Bank and East Jerusalem last year, making 2020 the worst year since 2004, when 197 Palestinians were killed. In the fall, at least 9 more Israelis were killed in a new series of attacks. According to the Israeli army, the majority of Palestinians killed were militants. However, stone-throwing youths opposing the intrusions, as well as those who were not involved in the clashes, have also been killed. The new order issued by Ben Gvir is not the first struggle over the Palestinian flag. The red, green, and white Palestinian flag holds significant symbolic value in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Last May, Israeli riot police assaulted pallbearers at the funeral of slain Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, nearly knocking the casket over. To disperse the crowd, police snatched Palestinian flags from people's hands and deployed stun grenades. Israel used to regard the Palestinian flag as an enemy symbol. However, after Israel and the Palestinians signed the Oslo Accords, a series of interim peace treaties in the 1990s, the flag was recognized as that of the Palestinian Authority, which was established to oversee Gaza and parts of the occupied West Bank. Israel opposes any official activity conducted by the Palestinian Authority in East Jerusalem, and police have previously broken up gatherings they suspected were linked to the PA. On Sunday, Netanyahu told his cabinet that the actions against Palestinians were intended as what he called an extreme anti-Israel step at the United Nations. Palestinian residents make up 20% of Israel's population and have had a tumultuous relationship with the state since its inception in 1948. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians fled or were forced to flee during the war that preceded Israel's formation. Those who stayed became citizens, although they have long faced discrimination and mistrust from some Israelis due to their ties to Palestine in the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem, regions Israel won in the 1967 Mideast War. Meanwhile, hundreds of Israelis have come to the streets to oppose Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's new government's intentions, which critics believe endanger democracy and freedoms. Protesters gathered in Tel Aviv's central city days after the country's most right-wing and religiously conservative administration in its 74-year history was ushered in. "The settler government is against me," read one placard. Another banner read, "Housing, Livelihood, Hope." Some protesters carried rainbow flags. The demonstration was led by left-wing and Arab Knesset members of Israel's parliament. They argue that the new cabinet proposed plans will hinder the judicial system and increase societal disparities. Left-wing demonstrators slammed Justice Minister Yariv Levin, who revealed the government's long-promised revamp of the legal system on Wednesday, with the goal of weakening the country's Supreme Court. Critics have accused the government of launching the war on the judicial system, claiming that the proposal will upend Israeli systems of checks and balances and destroy its democratic institutions by granting the new governing coalition full power. "We are really afraid that our country is going to lose the democracy and we are going to a dictatorship just for reasons of one person who wants to get rid of his law trial," said Danny Simon, 77, a protester from Yavne, south of Tel Aviv. He was referring to Netanyahu, who was indicted on corruption accusations in 2021, which he has rejected. Protesters also argue for peace and coexistence between Jews and Arabs in the country. "We can see right now many laws being advocated for against LGBTQ, against Palestinians, against larger minorities in Israel," said Rula Daoud of Standing Together, a grassroots movement of Arabs and Jews. "We are here to say loud and clear that all of us, Arabs and Jews, and various different communities inside of Israel, demand peace, equality, and justice." Preparing for more upheaval, U.S. President Biden is sending his national security advisor to Israel in mid-January to prevent possibly growing rifts between his government and its major Mideast partner. According to administration officials, Jake Sullivan's travel may be followed by other high-level excursions to Israel, including one by Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Their message goes beyond concerns about inflaming Palestinian tensions. It's also about avoiding cozying up to Russia, especially because Moscow is relying on Israel's primary adversary, Iran, in its assault on Ukraine and not disturbing the delicate Middle East security balance. Since Netanyahu won hotly contested elections last year with overwhelming support from Israel's rights, U.S. officials have sought to dampen expectations of a collision course, stating that they will judge his government based on actions rather than personalities. Biden himself spoke of his long-standing friendship with Netanyahu. Nonetheless, the administration has indicated that it will work with Netanyahu while avoiding the most extreme members of his coalition. That strategy would not be novel in the region. The U.S. works with Lebanon's government while avoiding Hezbollah members, a recognized foreign terrorist organization that is also a domestic political power. However, it would be odd for the United States to follow a similar strategy with such a close partner.